Hi. There's this drama going on in Facebook or in Meta about this reformist progressive group called Kayumanggi, and a lot of conservatives, or let's say the right-wing people in quotes, um, are mad at the members of Kayumanggi, and then the members of Kayumanggi, of course, are fighting back, and there's this kind of small-scale social media warfare that's going on. And I just wanted to chime in a little bit, excuse me, and as someone who's been on both sides, I would say, like I was back when I was attending church, or when I was active as a born-again Christian, I became somewhat conservative, I would say. I think that's fair to label myself as such. Perhaps born-again Christians wouldn't want me to identify myself as such because they would actually disown me, but that's a different topic for another video. But and then at the same time, I would also consider myself as liberal in a sense that I just love having conversations, and I love having conversations with people that I disagree with because it's a lot more interesting. I get to learn more about how they see the world, and perhaps they could reveal something that I've never considered before, or I've never factored in before. So I've decided that, just check this out. Check out the group. What's in it? Why are the conservatives, or why are the so-called right-leaning people mad at the members of Kayumanggi? And so I saw this thing I saw the Discord link in Facebook or in Meta, and I decided that, you know what, I don't like Facebook, I don't like Meta. It makes me anxious, it makes me somewhat depressed, not clinically depressed, but depressed. It's depressing to constantly compare yourself with people. So I thought that perhaps I could have the discussion side of things without the depressing side of social media. So I joined the Discord channel, and it's a mixed bag, I have to say. Like I think there's some validity of, like, the conservatives or the right-leaning people to push back against the group, because there are some very, like, I would say, far left politically leaning people in the Discord chat, but I think for the most part they're very civil. I haven't really encountered someone who who would be considered rude, at least in my opinion. Maybe I have a high tolerance for edgelords, for offensive content, because I've been on the internet for like more than 2 decades now. So perhaps I've developed a thick skin when it comes to that. But anyway, I wanted to address some of the things that's being thrown out towards Kayumanggi. So one of the things is that people say that it supports the insurgents, let's say, or the armed revolutionary people. As far as I can tell, like, there has been posts in Facebook by the founder of the group itself. I'm not going to mention her name because I don't want to bring more attention or negative attention towards her. I'm by no means associated with her. I don't know her personally. I just want to discuss this because I talk about politics. I talk about whole slew of things here on my channel. So I just wanted to chime in, but I'm not connected to her in any way, shape, or form, apart from the Discord channel, maybe. Right, like, that's about it. So anyway, she made a post where she said that she does not support the the violence that has been done by those groups. I think she has done enough to, or she has said enough to show that she doesn't support violence. She's very much anti-violence, as far as I can tell. By the way, don't confuse me as someone who completely agrees with her. Like, I have, I would say, like maybe 60% disagreement with at least what she has posted. We'll get to that maybe later on, maybe. Because I don't have a script for this one, because I keep on trying to, like, I'm trying to think how I can encapsulate my experience in the Discord channel of Kayumanggi. And I've tried writing a script, but I just feel like it's so inorganic. So I just thought that, if I were to introduce the group to a friend, how would I introduce it? So yeah, anyway, so going back, I don't think that she's pro-violence. I don't think she's that far left. Like, her as an individual, I don't think that she's far left. I think she considers herself as a leftist because based on the definition that they're throwing about, is that leftism is equals to pro-worker. Like, they're not using leftism in a sense that everything's communism, everything's socialism, everything's like LGBT. I don't think that that's the purpose of them labeling themselves as leftists. I think they've done a decent job. After, me personally, I looked up their definitions because I think it's actually useful to have or to understand where the people that you're having disagreements with, where they're coming from, and how they define the words that they're using. And as far as I can tell, like, she's not far left. I don't think she's pro-communist. I don't think that she's an extremist. She did mention that she's a progressive reformist. I hope I'm not misrepresenting her stance, but that's how she labels herself, at least as far as I can tell, as far as I can remember. And again, when it comes to progressivism, I think a lot of conservatives have become allergic to that term, because in the West, when you say progressive, you probably think of green-haired with armpit hair and just nose rings and stuff like that. Like, that's the idea of progressives in the West. But that's not her, at least as far as I know. Her definition of progressivism, or at least the photo that I saw in the Discord announcement or introduction, is that progressivism is the idea that it has the government or the nation has to constantly evolve and change. Like, that's their. I hope I'm not misrepresenting their stance, but that's basically what I remember. I remember reading that from a photo in Facebook or in Discord. Right, so it's very plain and simple. It's very moderate. Again, I think it's unfair to call them extremists, at least the administrators. Of course, now here's a caveat. When it comes to the Discord channel, for those who aren't overly familiar with the culture in Discord and the culture of the internet, let's just say in general, is that if you have a public forum or if you have a group or a discussion board and you open it up to a lot of people, what ends up happening is that you're going to have a bunch of people there that even the administrators and the moderators would end up disagreeing with. Hold on, sorry, I can't speak for some reason. So yeah, I think the administrators and moderators would end up not agreeing with a lot of people, and I'm the example of that. And because I consider myself as, I guess you could say, a fiscal conservative or a classical liberal. I think the lines between those two ideologies are kind of blurry nowadays. or just you can just call me libertarian, right wing, or whatever you want to call me, just pro free market. And so I'm very much against like the left leaning state interventionism. I don't believe that that's the way to go. And so I end up disagreeing with some of the moderators, some of the administrators of the group, and yet they were very polite when it comes to those disagreements. And we actually ended up, talking about random stuff like gaming, pop culture, philosophy, history. I don't remember if I've ever had discussions about religion, but we talk about geopolitics. We've talked about a lot of things. Again, we're still in disagreement when it comes to our political leanings, our political ideologies. But what's fascinating about it is that we're able to act like adults, and we're able to have civil disagreements, which I think needs to be highlighted. That's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video, not because I'm paid by them. I mean, if they paid me, I don't know, I'll probably compliment them on their looks, even though I've never seen them before. But I'll just make up stuff if they pay me. But I'm not getting paid, so I'm not going to do that. The reason why, kidding aside, the reason why I wanted to make this video is that for the longest time, I've been participating in the political discussions on and off social media, mostly on the internet, mostly in random spaces. I think here in the Philippines, we don't really have a decent space or a decent place to have civil disagreements on. There used to be like groups on Facebook where people would label themselves as free thinkers, but it seems like if you're free thinking and you're stating your opinions in that group, they seem to shame you. They seem to be very antagonistic when it comes to people who don't subscribe to their ideologies. And I think the Kayumanggi group, at least the Discord group. Again, I don't participate in the Facebook group because I think it's a lot less productive. I feel like it's more, I think it's more hostile. I have a theory on that, but we'll get to that. But I think in the Discord group, it does, the moderators and the administrators, even the participants in that group, despite having like polar opposites when it comes to political ideologies or political leanings, we're still able to have like a productive conversation. We're still able to treat each other with politeness and common courtesy. Maybe not respect. I'll reserve the term respect for people who would earn it. And I don't think that I've earned their respect. But at the very least, we're able to act like adults there. And so, anyway, to go to my theory as to why I think the Facebook group is a lot less polite, let's just say, is that I think people are trying to comment something or post something that's inflammatory. And I think the reason for that is that there's an aspect of Facebook that there's a chance that you could go viral. If you could do something, let's just say, that could tackle or scratch that itch for like an emotional response. If you can trigger an emotional response, there you go. That's what I've been failing to say. If you could trigger some emotional response and that triggers the person or that triggers the reader, then you could go viral. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people are more concerned about like really, really punchy comments, or like sometimes even to the point where they get hostile or they get really antagonistic. I've seen a few comments, I've seen a few posts, mainly because people are taking screenshots of the Facebook group or Facebook posts, and then they would paste that on the Discord chat. So anyway, so I think that's one of the reasons why it's a lot less polite and it's a lot less it's a lot less productive. Meanwhile, in the Discord chat, it's hard to post your opinion and then not justify it, because if you post something there or if you put something in the chat, you can almost always expect, even at past 12 midnight, you can almost always expect that someone would reply to you and ask questions and break down your opinion or your argument, not because they're simply just being contrarians, but for me, for example, when someone posts something about their opinion and I want some clarifications, then I'm going to ask a question. I'm not just going to allow them to just get away with it and just randomly shite post, let's just say. And I actually love having, again, disagreements and conversations with people. And the way that I do that is, instead of assuming the worst possible interpretation of what they're saying, I would actually much rather ask questions and ask for clarifications, especially when it comes to like the semantics or the definition of terms, because some people actually don't like the fact that I get stuck in semantics, but I think it's actually very important for us to properly define what do they mean by leftism or right-wing, or being right-wing, or being conservative, being liberal. I think it's also important that we clearly define what's left-wing and right-wing, and we should not be conflating the socio-political, let's say, political compass with the econopolitical compass. I think it's highly inaccurate to have, like, for example, someone who's pro-LGBT, or maybe they have like they're in a same-sex relationship and they are very much for the Soggy Bill or the anti-discrimination law, and they want state interventionism when it comes to that, but at the same time they're business owners. Like they don't want to be overly regulated by the government. They don't want that many red tape, and they want their taxes simplified. So how do you then put that person in a political compass? You can't just put that on the left because they're LGBT, because economically they're actually quite libertarian right, or conservative, what do you call this, fiscal conservative, or just pro-free market, like libertarian capitalism, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. And you can't also just label them as conservative or right-wing because they're pro-business, because again, they're very much for anti-discrimination laws like Soggy Bill. So I think it's very important for us to be able to like properly define what's conservative, what's liberal, what's libertarian, what's authoritarian, what's left-wing, what's right-wing. And I think that's one of the flaws, or I guess one of the things that's lacking in the group so far. And it's not just on the group itself. I think there's also a lack of, or at least I think that lack is actually present in our culture here in the Philippines, at least in the political discussion spaces everywhere. I've noticed that people seem to fail to properly define things, and they just throw out labels. They just label sling. Unfortunately, it comes to a point where the discussion, because the definitions aren't clearly well defined, it doesn't really make that much sense, in my opinion. I think that you should be able to at least make sure that you're on the same page with the person that you're having conversations with, and especially when it comes to like disagreements. Like, for example, I'll just use this as example. In one of the voice chats that I've joined, and I've had a conversation with I think someone who reads about Marx, let's just say. I don't know if he's actually a communist or what, but he reads a lot of Marx and he subscribes to the ideology. So maybe it's fair. I just don't want to misrepresent someone. And so this person tends to use a lot of Marxist jargon, a lot of Marxist terminologies. And for me, for someone who doesn't really read a lot of political theory, instead, the way that I come up with my political leanings or my political ideas is that I try to observe things, and it's based on my lived experiences, and that's how I got into like libertarianism or the free market, because I've seen how it works and I've participated in it, and I think it works. I've seen people like get out of poverty because of it. It alleviates poverty. It actually enriches people. It enriches society. It enriches the lives of people. So that's how I got into libertarianism. But what I've noticed from at least the person that I was having a conversation with, I've noticed that whenever they use the Marxist jargon, it's really difficult for us to at least reach some sort of what do you call this? Not necessarily a political common ground, because we're actually quite on the exact opposite of, if he's a Marxist, then I'm a libertarian, then we're on the exact opposite, not just in the x-axis, but also in the y-axis of the political compass. But it's not just that, but because I could actually have a decent conversation with a Marxist or a communist, despite having like nothing in common when it comes to political leanings. But I think the problem is that when someone starts using just purely Marxist jargon or Marxist terminologies, it starts getting difficult. There's a difficulty when it comes to like understanding one another. Perhaps he understands me because I use like very layman terms. I use very basic econopolitical or sociopolitical terminologies. I'm very practical when it comes to the examples that I would give. And so he probably understands me, but once he starts, this is going to sound really bad, but I couldn't think of any other way to say it. But when he starts regurgitating like the things that he has read about Marxism, I think that's when I just my brain just couldn't absorb anything that he says. All I'm hearing is bourgeoisie or the proletariat and the elimination of blah blah blah, like, and then landlords, they're just ranting about land. And I mean, I get it, like if we're talking about land reform, sure, like we can have a conversation about that. But once you start using just purely Marxist jargon, like you lose people there. And I think and we have to consider the fact that this is me trying to connect with people. This is me trying to understand people, trying to understand ideologies, trying to understand ideas, trying to understand political concepts, economic concepts. I have a curiosity that I'm trying to satisfy, and yet I myself am like experiencing this difficulty to understand or at least connect with someone who's just spewing out jargon. And I think that's one of the lack, or there's a disconnect amongst us Filipinos that I guess because some are more well-read when it comes to political theory, that they assume that everyone just understands what they're saying whenever they talk about let's say political proponents or the proponents of those ideologies or those theories. Because they've read it, they would assume that everyone has read it before. And even I myself, like I actually didn't, again, I didn't come up with I didn't lean towards libertarianism because I've read the works of Ayn Rand, or I didn't listen to Thomas Sowell or Ron Paul or whichever libertarian there is. I only knew about them after I've reached the conclusion of, or at least my theory that libertarianism is the way to go. I think libertarianism is the way to go. But I've only I've only encountered their works. There's interviews, the quotes from Ayn Rand. I haven't personally read the works of Ayn Rand yet. But yeah, I have a more practical approach to things. I think it would be nice to have like both sides, not just the leftists, not just the socialists, not just the communists, but I hope that conservatives would also adapt the idea of, trying to connect to the people who are still in the middle, because there's a lot of people who are, I would say, just lurking in the Discord server or in any discussion group for that matter. I think if conservatives want to win people over, or they're really afraid of, communist ideologies just spilling all over and infiltrating the ranks of what they think, I guess, functional society is, I think it's in their best interest to at least participate in the discussions. But I don't know. I've been paying attention to like Western politics, and what I've observed is that conservatives, that seem to be a weakness of conservatives. They don't really like going out of their comfort zones. Thus, the name conservatives. They tend to be cynical when it comes to change, when it comes to expanding their territories or expanding their horizons. And I think that's actually one of the reasons why they're losing the culture war. Sure, you can make the argument that recently there's like a resurgence for maybe heading towards center. I still don't think that conservatism is on the rise. I think it's still very much like progressive ideologies in the West. I don't think that the conservatives there has done enough to swing it back. Not that I want that exactly, because I'm socially again, still libertarian. I've discussed my own perspectives there in the socio-political landscape in another video in my channel if you want to watch that. If you want to read that, because I have the subtitles. If you hate my voice, but if you want to read it, you can read it in the video that I made. But yeah, if you want things to be more balanced, if you don't want things to go to the extreme left or the extreme right, I think you should take responsibility, especially as a Filipino. I think you should take the responsibility of, just participating in the conversations, maybe pushing back against extremist ideologies, and not pushing back in an antagonistic way, but pushing back in a way that you could ask questions, you could question if that actually works, or if there's like a practicality to it, if it can actually operate in like objective reality, or what's the scalability of that ideology. I think you can ask questions like that, and that could at least maybe not really convince the person who's into like extreme ideologies, but again, because you're in Discord, there's hundreds of people there, maybe even thousands if you could count like the ones that are lurking, and like you might be able to convince someone who's just lurking, who's not participating in the conversation but reading the conversation. Perhaps you could convince them, or perhaps you could offer an alternative to the extreme ones. Like you could offer like maybe not necessarily a moderate solution, but at the very least like a balanced solution, or something to balance out the extremes. Sorry, I'm starting to lose my voice. Anyway, so I think that's it. I'd keep it under 30 minutes. I was actually hoping that I could end this in 5 to 10 minutes, but I just ended up rambling. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. Again, I don't think Kayumanggi is an extreme group. I think the administrators and moderators are actually like very reasonable people to talk to. And even if you end up disagreeing with them, I think that you can actually have a decent conversation, because I've had great conversations with them. And if I can do it, someone like me who's like a lot less educated when it comes to political theory, if I'm still able to like have a decent conversation with them, then you should be able to do so. And if you find yourself like maybe too much at odds, and you find yourself agitated by their ideals, then I don't know, bro, maybe that's a skill issue on your part. Maybe something to think about. I don't know. Sorry, didn't mean to like take pot shots at people who have skill issues when it comes to civil disagreements, but if you're a grown-ass adult and you still can't handle disagreements, then that's on you, bro. That's not on the people that you disagree with. Because as far as I can tell, they can disagree with you without calling you names or without red tagging. Anyway, again, just for final disclaimer, I am not a communist. I am not a communist. I'm not a socialist. I'm a pro-free market guy. I believe in the ability of people to pick themselves up by the bootstraps, and I believe that the free market works as long as it actually is the free market, which I think that's not the reality of things here in the Philippines. That's why we have like really, really bad cases of poverty. But anyway, that's a different topic for a different time. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you guys on the next video, maybe 6 months from now. No, I'm kidding. Maybe a week or two, hopefully. I don't know. Bye.